just get to be I just get to be hype man for a second, which is my favorite role. So let's go to the next slide. And we have been on a wild ride for the last 18 or 20 or so months since forming Upcycled Food Association. It was formed by just a few businesses who got together and said, hey, if we work together, we can make this a thing. We want upcycled to be a thing in the same way that organic is a thing. When you're walking down the aisles of a grocery store, people look for organic products. And while research tells us that people would be looking for upcycled products if they knew what it was, not enough people know what they are yet. And that's why Upcycled Food Association was formed, is to educate the general public on what are upcycled products, how are they good for you, how are they good for the planet, and then make it easier for more people to find those products all around the world. So first we worked with Harvard Law School to develop a definition for upcycled food, basically set in stone. Upcycled products have to prevent food waste. Then, since then, for the past year or more, at this point, we've been working on developing a set of standards for upcycled certification and ultimately a certification program, which we are thrilled to have launched just a couple months ago. And that's why we're here today, to celebrate the beginning of more consumers being able to easily find upcycled products in whatever grocery store they're in all around the world, starting this year in the US, because they're looking for that upcycled certification mark, which was developed by a great company. Modern Species helped us with that, and Drexel University helped us with multiple rounds of consumer research. And we're really pleased with the logo. We think it's beautiful, but the fact that it's beautiful isn't the most exciting thing. Of course, the most exciting thing is, what is it actually going to do for sales? How is this mark, when it's sitting on a shelf somewhere out there, going to actually accelerate the upcycled economy and make it so that more people are buying more upcycled products around the world? So next slide. Here's what's really exciting. A couple wins since this organization was formed. Well, Whole Foods named upcycled food one of the top 10 trends for this year, because a lot of the work that we've been doing around SEO and our new website. Press coverage of upcycled food has increased by 128%. We also have evidence that sales of our members' products are increasing. Because of that logo that you saw in the last slide, more than half of consumers had increased intent to buy. So you take a product, take the same product, put the logo, the upcycled certified mark on it, and all of a sudden, more than half of people have increased intent to buy. That's pretty exciting. If you're a retailer, 97% of consumers think more positively about retailers that carry upcycled products. So when you carry upcycled certified products on shelf, it's basically a banner that says, hey, look at us. We're doing our part to help prevent food waste too. So this is a really exciting time, because it's really the beginning of the vision that we've been talking about since forming this organization, in which consumers will be able to fill their whole carts with nothing but products that prevent food waste. In other words, products that help contribute to the #1 solution to climate change. So it's a really exciting time if you are an ingredient supplier. It's not just a product certification, it's an ingredient certification that improves your sustainability and value proposition to your CPG customers. If you're a CPG, it improves your sustainability with your customers, consumers, because you're able to say things like, for every one of these products, we're preventing this much food waste. If you're a retailer, you're benefiting from the growth of the upcycled industry, because you get to support consumers and empowering them to prevent food waste with the products they buy, and improving your image with consumers. So it's a win. Upcycled is a win, win, win. And we're so thrilled to be sharing this mark with the world. And today, especially celebrating some of the first brands that were upcycled certified ingredients and products. And I think there's going to be a couple fun surprises today too. We might just be seeing some firsts today, like some logo on packaging, and hearing some numbers about the impact that this program has had so far. So thank you so much. It's great to see so many folks here, and really excited to work with you all to grow the upcycled industry and prevent food waste. I'll pass it back to Alicia.
Next slide, please. So we've been working on, go back one. So we've been working on a finder for certified products and ingredients. And this is also one of your perks of the certification. You get to be listed on our website publicly so everyone can see that you are certified, and you get to have your product up there. There's beautiful product shots and product explanations. You can also link it back to your actual page or where you want the customer or the person who's looking for your item to go to. So you can provide us with that link. So I think that's a new and exciting thing that we're now offering. You'll hear a little bit more about that process later on. Next slide. All right, so we're going to go into the first panel. We're going to hear from 3 of our certified companies. Currently, as it stands, we have 46 PUIs and 6 UIs certified through the program. This represents a little bit over 1,600 tons diverted food waste based on yearly production. So that's really, really huge. Our panelists today are Darren from Outcast Foods, Romy from Misadventure Vodka, and last but certainly not least, Shannon from Snack Futures. Darren, I'll be coming to you first and then to Romy.
All right, well, thank you. I guess this is my turn. Thank you, Alicia, for the introduction and for the opportunity to talk about upcycling and Outcast, the Outcast story. So upcycling is it's a thing that I stumbled upon. So probably different than most of you. I am a scientist by training. I built a career researching the impact of dietary supplements on health and fitness. And about 5 years ago, I switched to being plant-based. And during that journey to become vegan, I started researching the impact of food choices on the environment. And that's when I discovered this giant issue of food waste in the world. And as you start to uncover some of the issues with food along the food waste continuum, I think you get to a point where the discovery is so astonishing in terms of how much food is lost from the supply chain, all the way from the farmer's field right through to even making its way to our homes from the grocer. And so that's when this idea as the science guy came to me, where I thought there's nutrition in there that we need to be able to recover. And that was the essence of the start of Outcast. And we're 3 years old. We work with everything from farms to grocer. We take the food that would have been graded out because it was irregular shaped or oddly colored or something different about it from the farmer's field, right through to the distributors and the food brokers that are moving food around the North America from farm to grocer. If it gets rejected because of a temperature issue in transport. And then we work with the grocers. So grocers that are trying to maintain those beautiful colored produce on the shelves each day, they get called to keep them looking a certain way. And that's where our company fits in. And the essence of what we do is we've developed a proprietary process that can clean and powder and turn it into nutrient-dense powders with 2 to 3 year shelf life. And we have a very active B2B business where we've been working with some of the largest food companies in the world, all the way down to the startup companies that are developing unique recipes to bring to market upcycled products. So the product dev side of our business has been incredibly busy and very, very active. We're all in on upcycling. We've raised over $15 million to date in venture funding. We have 2 facilities. Our first one is in Nova Scotia, Canada, on the East Coast, where we've done a considerable amount of R&D in developing the protocols in order to do what we do. Our second facility opens in August this summer in Ontario, and will service the better part of Canada and the United States in terms of inbound supply side. And just to put some numbers to it, our processing capacity by the end of the summer will be 1 million pounds a month across both of our facilities. And that's rescuing food that otherwise would go to waste. And it's a really exciting time, I think, for food and beverage. I think the future will include all products having some level of inclusion of upcycled fruits and vegetables in them. And with the end goal being is that the majority of the inclusions of products, everything from cosmetics to smoothies to pancake and waffle mixes, will have upcycled ingredients in them. So we're really excited about the certification process. It's been seamless. It's been as far as regulatory pieces go, it's a critical and important piece to our business, just like having CFIA in Canada and FDA approval and BRC certification on our facilities. Having this upcycled certification mark on our products is a critical and very important first step in the right direction for food and beverage in the future. Our facilities, the last little piece of plug for Oatcast, we can do everything from avocado to zucchini and all the letters of the alphabet in between. And we've developed quite a recipe for doing those. And so we're excited to continue to work with the Upcycled Food Association and, of course, all of the other great brands that are bringing a very unique product offering to market. We're there to participate and help with the development of new products. If you're looking for information on Oatcast, you can check us out, oatcastfoods.com. Check our Instagram out, Oatcast Mission. And of course, you can reach me at db@oatcastfoods.com. And very excited to be a part of this. And this is a trend, and this is a big movement, and we're at the beginning of it. And there's a huge tailwind behind us. So kudos to all of you that are working on upcycled products to take to market and continue to support this great initiative.
Thanks for that, Darren. Next slide, please. Okay, so we're gonna go to Romy from Misadventure Vodka. If you can just introduce yourself and tell us about your company and the product and ingredient that you got certified. Bonus points if you have any advice for prospective applicants.
Got it. Well, hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. My name is Romy, and I am from Lost and Found Distillery. We're actually most commonly known as Misadventure Vodka. We make the first spirit in the world made out of excess baked goods. So anything that you can imagine that goes into a grocery store bakery aisle, from cookies, bagels, donuts, breads, cakes, like anything that is in the pastries and bakery aisle, we rescue and before it goes to landfill, and we make our first product is Misadventure Vodka. That is a delicious and smooth vodka. And it's been such an incredible ride to be a part of this, the upcycling world, I have to say. It's definitely been challenging, especially when you're talking about food that it's being disposed and people associated with it being bad and trash, you know, it's something that you don't want to eat. And they don't really understand that a lot of the food that is being disposed is actually not even expired, they're still good. And the wonderful thing about what we do by distilling it into ethanol is that it actually doesn't really matter if the food is a little bit old. And you know, what we're doing is we're extracting the starches and the sugars, and we're using that to make ethanol. So we're the first to make a food grade ethanol from food waste. And we, like I said, our main product and first product was Misadventure Vodka. That's been our focus since we started in 2015. But then last year during COVID, we were kind of forced, as many other distilleries, to pivot into hand sanitizer. And that opened a whole new world for us. So we realized that it doesn't have to end with the vodka and eventually other liqueurs that we were looking into making. We can actually make sustainable ethanol that can be used at an industrial scale, can be used in cosmetics, in hand sanitizer, in so many different ways. And the more that we make, of course, the more food that we're preventing from ending in landfills. So we certified our vodka, we certified our hand sanitizer, and then we also certified two new products that are coming out soon. We're working on packaging that are extracts. So we're making a vanilla and a lemon extract. And that those products are really interesting for us because we're going to be able to kind of close a loop. If you think about it, if we were to rescue bread from a bakery, make extracts, and then they can put that extract back into the products that they make, it's a beautiful circular economy. So we're really excited about that. And then we also certified our ethanol just as an ingredient. So anyone that needs ethanol for anything, any use, can come to us and we can sell sustainable 100% upcycled ethanol. So it's been a really, really exciting process to be a part of this. Like I said, a big challenge that we've had is educating people that we can still make something edible and good with infinite shelf life from products that were going to be thrown out, that had very limited shelf life, that were going bad, that had no nutritional value, which is why the food banks can't use them because they're sugary. So they can't really give that to the needy. And they're just destined to landfill, like thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds a week. So yeah, we're very excited to be a part of this. I think the certification offers us kind of a stamp of approval for the consumers. So far, the few different people that we've announced that we've been certified have been very impressed. It gives us, like, it makes it official. It makes the process and the product more elevated because now it has a stamp of approval. So we're really, really excited to have been a part of the beta program, and we thank you for including us.
Thanks for that. And as an avid baker, I'm patiently waiting for this vanilla extract to come out. Next, we'll move on to Shannon from Snack Futures. Shannon, same question to you. Introduce yourself, your company, and the product that you got certified. And again, any advice you may have for prospective applicants.
Great. Thanks, Alicia. Hi, everyone. I'm Shannon. I am part of the Snack Futures Innovation and Venture Hub at Mondelez International. I lead Cacao, which is a new plant-based brand of snacks. We're both on the mission of upcycling the parts of the cacao fruit that are typically wasted during the production of chocolate. And throughout the process of developing and launching our brand, one of our biggest obstacles has been how to communicate the concept and the benefit of upcycled food in a way that's relatable to consumers and retailers, but also, as Romy mentioned, also assures consumers of quality. And the creation of the UFA, the formal definition of upcycled food and that movement to educate consumers in the past, just really within the past years, really resonated with us as a really new brand. And so earlier this year, we joined the UFA. And for a new brand like Cacao, we felt that the certification really could mean the difference between kind of continuing to be a tiny niche brand, trying to do good, versus a brand that can help lead more of a movement and truly make a difference. So we were really thrilled to be accepted into the certification beta program. Today, we have a line of plant-based snacks that blends upcycled cacao fruit with other real simple ingredients. And we've got a new format that's launching in October. Both have been upcycled, certified through the beta program. And I thought I'd share just a couple of tips or observations of what we went through the process. So one was just what to expect in terms of how long the process could take. That's going to vary, I'm sure, by company, but we kicked off roughly end of March and we had our official certification mid-July. So that was just over 3 months is how long it took us. a tip for anyone who is considering the certification. While there are only a handful of forms that need to be submitted, those inputs need to come from lots of different sources. So depending on your supply chain, there's the brand owner, the ingredient supplier, the manufacturing team, your R&D developers. So strongly encourage that you have a meeting at kickoff or even before, just to set expectations and accountability with your team to really help that process be smooth. And throughout the process, I think most of the questions that are points of confusion that came up for us specifically was responding to questions within those documents and whether we were answering them through the lens of an upcycled ingredient versus an upcycled product. So I think I saw a question through the chat earlier. Cacao was going for a product certification, not an ingredient certification. So that would be up to the cacao fruit supplier to attain should they want to. However, our product certification, of course, is based on the fact that we're using an upcycled ingredient. So there's a clear connection between the two, and they are intrinsically linked. So as you're going through that documentation, points in time required some clarity, both from where food comes from and the UFA, both incredibly responsive to whatever random question came up through the process, any kind of, whether big or small or just a miscommunication on my part. They're super receptive to feedback. And we were all going through this at the same time for the first time. So also just really embracing the fact that we were learning this process together, but it was very smooth. As we started to wrap up the certification process, we initiated pack design work to incorporate the mark onto and messaging onto our pack. And the UFA provides usage guidelines for the mark and romance copy example. So really great starting point. We got a little stuck on how best to bring some of that language to life on pack and where to best do it on pack. And again, open communication with both the UFA and where food comes from, open to feedback, as well as understanding that in some cases we might have our own individual regulatory challenges involved. But that was all resolved really quickly again. And because of that, we're super excited to reveal, I think maybe for the first time, the certification mark in action on pack. So if you want to share the next slide, we can show you. So this is our Cacaofruit bites. We are a mission-based brand, so we chose to celebrate that certification. So you'll see it prominently placed on the front of pack. We've got that certification mark up front, top right panel, as well as calling out the fact that we're made with upcycled cacao fruit. And then when you look there on the back of pack, and we kind of just did a bit of an explosion of that romance copy, it goes into a bit more detail, calling out upcycled cacao fruit, its benefits to farmers and in addressing food waste, but also within our diagram, it's where we really highlight the copy certified made with upcycled cacao fruit. And so we really wanted to make sure that we integrated this throughout our packaging. And if you'll move to the next slide, just a quick example of how we did that across multiple pack formats. We have our primary format, which is that bag in the center. To the right of that is the flow wrap. It's an individually wrapped bite, and you'll see the upcycled certification mark called out there, as well as on the left, our caddies, where you can buy individual bites. So these are all the consumer-facing pieces of art that you see, and where we have leveraged the upcycled certified mark on them. We're also looking at incorporating that mark across communication points, so in point of sale and across our website with links to the UFA. And I think it's because that mark both is a means of helping educate consumers about the value and the benefits of upcycling, but it really also provides consumers with that confidence that it's a product that has quality, that is kind of validated. And Turner had mentioned earlier that they had done some work to understand the impact of that mark once it's on packaging. We conducted a brief survey internally with the question that asked whether or not this certification changed consumers' willingness to purchase cacao. And it positively impacted 54% of respondents' opinions. So fantastic, in our mind, just fantastic success there. And we're really looking forward to getting that package on shelf, which we should start to see early this fall. And there's the fact that when potential consumers realize that their choice in a snack, which is something that they're doing already every day, can be a way for them to contribute. So one of the biggest issues that we have, even in a small way, it really became a win-win. It was something where they felt good about where they were putting their money, as well as where they were putting kind of their food.
Thanks for that, Shannon. And by the way, I love the packaging. I'm so excited to see this come to fruition.
Thank you.
Next slide. Next slide, please. Okay, so thank you to all of our previous panelists. I'm excited to see when you guys get on store shelves. We will now move into the second panel with UFA and where food comes from. We will discuss the certification process and what you should expect from both companies. So here is a visual representation of the certification process. Please note that there are two processes running in parallel with each other, and you will be able to provide feedback throughout the process. Next slide, please. Okay, so this represents the beginning of the process. So you would submit your applicant interest form, which can be found on our website. Once you inform me that you are ready to start, I will get you connected with the CB. It is at that time you will receive your intake questionnaire. Once that is completed and submitted back to the CB, you will receive your operator's agreement and cost assessment. Once those two items are rectified, you will receive your verification paperwork from the CB. Next slide, please. At the same time you receive your verification paperwork, from me, you will receive your licensing agreement and your licensing agreement invoice. The invoice or the fee for the licensing agreement is different than the fee for the operator's agreement with the CB. Both fees need to be paid to their respective organizations. Once the licensing agreement fee is paid and the licensing agreement is signed and returned back to me, you will then receive a copy of the brand guideline and the certification mark artwork files. Please note that you have to submit all packaging and marketing materials to the CB for approval. Once the verification process has been completed, you will then receive your certificate. Once the UFA has been received, has been notified that you have received your certificate. Go back one, please. Thank you. Once the UFA has been notified that you have received your certificate, you will receive your formal written approval from the UFA to use the mark in the public space. You will also receive your signed and executed licensing agreement, and you will also receive a marketing toolkit called How to Talk About Your New Certification. Once all of this is completed, you will then receive instructions from me on how to go about getting your newly certified product and ingredient listed on our website in our beautiful finder that we mentioned earlier. Okay, so quickly, how do you get started? Again, it is the applicant interest form on our website. You complete that and submit that and turn that into me, and then I'll get you all set up with where food comes from. Next slide. And a little bit more overview on the licensing agreement process. These steps must be followed in order for you to get the mark and to be able to use the mark on packaging. So again, it's you sign and return the licensing agreement, you submit the licensing agreement fee, you will then receive the brand guideline and the certification mark. At the end of the certification process, you will receive your executed licensing agreement. Next slide, please. Okay, so I know some of you have had questions regarding the standard. We ask that you do try to read the standard before you start the certification process, as I think it will help inform some of the documentation that you would need to gather and put together before you apply. As for eligibility, you must have products for sale in the U.S. You must be diverting upcycled material from a waste stream, have a verifiable supply chain, and you must be an operator that grows, produces, manufactures, processes, and trades in food and beverage, dietary supplements, companion pet food, cosmetics, personal care products, and household cleaners. Some general requirements of the standard include that a company must fall into any of the three designations outlined in the standard: a UI, PUI, and less than. If you are an ingredient, upcycled ingredient, or UI, you must meet or exceed 95% uniform diverted input by weight. A uniform diverted input is an ingredient in the same state. So for example, if you are diverting dehydrated carrot peels, the 95% must consist of all dehydrated carrot peels. It cannot be a mixture of carrot peels, carrot puree, and let's say carrot pulp. If you are a product containing upcycled ingredients, or PUI, you must either meet or exceed 10% minimum threshold by weight, or through tons diverted with your associated sales tier. This chart can be found on page 19 of the standard. An example of what a sales tier would look like is this. Let's say if your sales tier is tier 1, you are a company that makes under $2 million in gross annual sales, product sales. That means you would need to be diverting about 5 tons per year. If you are a less than PUI, while you do not meet any of the aforementioned thresholds, you still must meet all other eligibility and certification requirements outlined in the standard. In terms of data, UFA will receive de-identified data from where food comes from, unless you opt in for us to see company-specific data. This aggregate data will be used to iterate the standard and for marketing purposes. So think like year-end reports and like infographics. The UFA will have access to your company data in the event that the CB needs to be audited, and the companies will be chosen at random. We're not reinventing the wheel here. This is in line with other certification programs. And lastly, you will also need to make sure that your process flows are completed. An example of this can be found on page 15 in the standard. You will also need your GHG sources identified. And I want to heavily emphasize the word identified. We are not asking for measurements at this time. We just want you to identify where these sources are coming from or may be coming from. You will also need to make sure that you have your food waste assessment and reduction plan, or FWARP, completed. Again, please note that this is a plan and does not need to be implemented at this juncture in order to be certified. Next slide, please. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over now to our wonderful technical partners for the certification, Christina and Catherine from Where Food Comes From.
Hello, everyone. Very excited to be here with you today and hoping to get through this quickly. I'm sure there's going to be great questions and specific things that come up in the Q&A session, so want to get to that. But I think what we wanted to highlight here is just that our expectation as a CB, working with you and these brands that are coming through to seek upcycled certification, is to really be present in that process. You know, we pride ourselves on our availability and our responsiveness, and that's really something that we feel makes us who we are in this process. And we hope that that's what entities experience when they work with us in certification. One of the other focal points that we've had here is that we also have the opportunity to bundle certifications. Upcycled is brand new out on the marketplace, and it has been such an exciting process to navigate with brands as they see how their products align with the standard. And we've also been able to incorporate other certifications in that process as well, like non-GMO project, organic, et cetera. So it's really allowed us to show that bundling is possible, even with these brand new programs and brand new products coming to market. Next slide, please. So when we think about certification, I think it's oftentimes, you know, when you hear the word auditing or inspection or certification, it can often feel very daunting to consider as a food brand. And one thing that I think is very true in the Upcycled certification program is that it is not a one-size-fits-all solution. Every upcycled ingredient is so unique, and the pathway to that upcycling process is so custom to that unique supply chain. And so we have found, as we've been applying the standard to new products coming in, that it really does take a hands-on approach. You know, what we spend our time navigating the relationship and understanding, what does the ingredient look like? What does the supply chain, how does it function? And that really helps us to go back to participants and let them know the various areas and records and things that they need to achieve the requirements of the standard based on their unique use case. So we're going to see, I think, a lot of variability in these types of products, which just speaks to the mission, right? You know, we're taking things that have historically been waste and turning them into food. And every single one of those instances is going to be special. Next slide, please. One thing to keep in mind, even though that everyone's situation will be unique, is that there are definitely all types of records that can be supplied to help tell this story and to validate the upcycled experience. So we just have a few of them here to call out. Alicia had noted some as well earlier, but really painting the picture of your unique supply chain, and then defining how upcycling is occurring, whether you're an upcycled ingredient or you're a product that's utilizing upcycled ingredients. It's all about the evidence to demonstrate that that's occurring. So there's a lot of ways to do that, receiving procedures, proof of purchase, and then all the way through to packaging. You know, that got touched on during the Cacao conversation, and those beautiful labels. You know, how do we translate the story of this upcycled certification to consumers in the marketplace today? So it's all about supply chain, record keeping, traceability, identity preservation of ingredient and product, and then that end result, right? Telling the story with the mark on pack and in materials to make sure consumers know that you're doing this kind of work. Next slide. There we go. I went through that fast, Alicia, but like I said, I want to make sure we give plenty of time for questions and unique situations that people want to talk through.
Awesome. Thanks, Catherine. Okay, so burning questions. We're going to move into our questions section of today's webinar and see if we can kind of help you guys out today. Next slide, please. Okay, so frequently asked questions. Some of the things that I see on a daily basis, I want to kind of address today to make sure that we're all on the same page and kind of help you understand our position on certain things and what to expect on certain things. So how can I become a certified UFA member? Well, certification and membership are two separate programs. Both have their own fee structures, both have their own requirements and guidelines. Just because you're a member does not automatically make you certified, and vice versa. If you're certified, does not automatically make you a member. What's the cost? Well, we have a fee schedule on our website and should be used as a general guide. However, your final cost of the certification will be determined by where food comes from based upon your application and number of products and or ingredients submitted. How long does this take? In general, I advise you to plan for 6 months. However, it can totally be done in less time than that. We've had companies get finished in about 4 to 6 weeks. And I think Darren, I think you got it done in like 4. So it can definitely be done in less than 6 months. I'm using a certified ingredient. My product is automatically certified, right? No. Ingredient certification and product certification are two separate things. You do not have to use a certified ingredient to get your product certified. However, we also advise that you do use certified ingredients because it makes your product certification slightly easier to get. I am a co-manufacturer. Can I apply on behalf of my clients? In general, yes, but we reserve the right to review co-manufacturer scenarios on a case-by-case basis. My facility isn't certified. Do I qualify? This is not a facilities, brand, or person certification. This certification is for the product and or ingredients. I am based outside of the US. Can I certify my product? Yes, you can. However, your products must be for sale in the US market. Next slide, please. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Leah now to moderate the Q&A portion of today's webinar.
Great, thanks, Alicia. Cool, so I answered a handful of questions typed that were pretty direct. There looks like we have about 4 questions for the panel. The first one is, has any of these companies done any quantification of environmental benefits of upcycling? If so, can they have access to those studies?
Thanks for that, Leah. So while although we aren't necessarily tracking that at the moment, that is something in the foreseeable future. It is up to you to reach out to the brands themselves. As we provide the diversion numbers, they can then go and do further environmental analysis on their own.
Great. And then kind of related to that question is, will the certification cover the environmental savings criterion? Will the certification ensure that the upcycled product is also environmentally beneficial than a non-upcycled product?
Yeah, so that is what we're getting at with the portion of the standard that asks for the GHG source identification. That also gets at the FORP. And we also ask a few other things in the sustainability profile in your intake paperwork. So all of that will inform those types of innovations we have in the future with the standard and how we want to communicate environmental impact.
Okay, great. The next one is, how exactly does UFA confirm that ingredients are upcycled? Do you visit harvesting sites? And I think this is actually a question best for Catherine or Christina from Where Food Comes From.
Absolutely. I think the short answer is it would vary widely depending on the upcycled ingredient that we're talking about. So there's a lot of different ways to validate that something is being upcycled and getting diverted from that waste stream via records, proof of purchase, chain of custody documents, all types of records that would associate with the movement, the production, and then movement of that product from what was previously waste to being utilized as a food ingredient. The standard and program itself does not require an on-site inspection up front, although it allows for it in instances where we may not be able to collect sufficient records to affirm compliance with the standard. But we do have a 10% on-site review that is a random selection of all approved entities that will be conducted as sort of a secondary validation layer to the certification process. So it's a bit of a mixture of compliance methods and the actual types of records or pieces of evidence that would be supplied to validate that diversion could vary greatly depending on the type of ingredient that we're talking about.
Okay, great. Let's see, the next question is, how many total companies are certified so far? And have any been declined for certification? And if so, why?
So as stated earlier, there are about 46 PUIs and 6 UIs currently certified within the program. I think, if I remember correctly, that came from about 11 companies. So that's actually a huge impact already. And to my knowledge, no one has been declined certification.
And Alicia, can you just remind us how many pounds of food waste, how many tons of food waste prevention that those numbers of certifications represent again?
Yes, so it was roughly over 1,600 tons based on yearly production. So that that's huge.
Okay. There's a question asking, outside of the US, like what are the parameters of using the upcycled phrase on packaging labels that aren't necessarily certified? And there isn't any specific laws surrounding the term upcycled. Can they use it on their package?
Well, the trademark, the mark and the certification is trademarked. So we would prefer it if you would go through certification. One, let's say if you don't have a product for sale in the US and you want the certification, we would ask that you wait until you are certified to use the mark and any type of romance language regarding the upcycledness of your product.
I think what he's asking is not maybe the label specifically, but just the general words like upcycled product.
Yes, so I think I still stand by my previous, like, because it's trademarked and we want to grow the industry and have common language and understanding of where the industry is going and what the upcycled means, we would prefer if you would use it after you are certified.
Leah, I wanted to go back to the previous question just really quickly on how many companies had been certified and if any had been denied. No one has been denied, but we have had a few instances where brands have come in seeking to go down the pathway to upcycled certification. And in that process, it's been determined that there's just no way to support that their ingredient is upcycled or is meeting the definition of being upcycled per the standard. So I think, although, like we noted, no one has been denied certification, there have definitely been some instances where there wasn't enough evidence to prove upcycling was occurring per the definitions of the standard, and a couple of products have not been able to move forward as a result.
Thanks for that clarification, Catherine. The next question is, are upcycled products and ingredients cheaper or expensive? If expensive, why? Is it because of any sustainability premiums?
I don't know if I follow the question. Are you saying is the end product more expensive or sourcing the ingredients more expensive?
It's
I think I can comment on that one.
okay, great.
This
Thanks,
is, again, everyone, this is Turner Wyatt. Here's what we do know. We got some research with our great partners at Drexel that showed us that generally consumers do expect upcycled products to cost less. So all things equal, consumers generally expect an upcycled cookie to cost less than a conventional cookie. But if you use the correct messaging strategy, especially rational messaging strategies, like ones that help to quantify the impact that you're having by using an upcycled ingredient, like saying for every cookie, we're preventing X number of pounds of food waste, that actually increases the willingness to pay to greater than a conventional product. And it was interesting because then after the logo came out, after the certification mark came out, Matson, which did the study that we were referencing earlier, where we found that 51%, similar to what Shannon at Snack Futures found, that more than half of consumers had increased intent to buy a product that had the certification mark versus not. And what they did another question on that same study where they asked, how do you think this mark impacts price? And what they found is more than 60% of people thought that it would carry a premium. So you take, basically what that study found several things. You take an upcycled cookie, Alicia's cookies that we're always talking about, and you take that Alicia's cookies packaging without the logo, and you take Alicia's cookies with the logo, more than half of people are going to have increased intent to buy, and more than 60% of people are going to expect, now that that logo is on pack, that the product is going to have a price premium. So we still have a lot to learn about this, but from a brand perspective, I think it's some pretty encouraging results so far. And by being a member of Upcycled Food Association, you're going to be the first to know when these kinds of insights get created.
Can I jump in and add a couple additional comments there?
Sure.
Just in follow up to Turner's comments. I get asked that question all the time about the price of ingredients, because a big part of our business is selling B2B to companies that are bringing brands to market. And the big challenge is they're looking at their P&L to say, look, can we afford the extra cost associated with an upcycled ingredient and to switch it out to get the minimum inclusions required in order to quote unquote call it an upcycled product and put the certification on it. My comment is very similar to Turner's comment in that it will allow you to unlock those sustainability and environmentally important claims that so many of customers now are looking for. I can tell you, as a company that's invested heavily all in making upcycled ingredients, that it is quite expensive to make a clean, nutrient dense powder with 2 to 3 year shelf life. It's equally challenging to make it cost comparable to the traditional supply chain. And let's face it, it's an Asian supply chain, it's China or India. But the more of us that get behind this movement and continue to bring awareness to this very important thing, this important trend, the better it will be. And from our business unit economics, the fact that now we're opening a second facility that can do £1 million a month, our third facility is in planned and it's going to do £3 million a month. The more volume we push through, which will be directly related to the pull on the other end, that is customers that are seeking upcycled ingredients, and there's a huge number, and that's the biggest companies in the world. It's going to allow us to have the unit economics and to be able to price those ingredients that will be cost comparable. And the huge benefit here is we're keeping North American fruit and vegetables in the North American food supply chain, which is so important for this initiative of reducing food waste. So collectively, I think there's the early adopters get it, and they are willing to pay a little bit extra to have a clean, nutrient dense, long shelf life powder in their products. But the more of us that get behind this, the better it will be for a unit economic standpoint. And we will get there. I mean, Outcast, I mean, we price a lot of ingredients. And so if anybody's curious about costing on ingredients, I'd be happy to have an offline conversation about it. But in time, the costs and the unit economics will get better for all of us, but we'll be ahead of trend because we're doing it now. Anyway, that's my 2 cents. Thanks.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, Darren. And we know with anything with economies of scale, usually the price goes down. And that's what we hope, and part of UFA's mission is to grow the upcycling economy. And the more certified ingredients we can have in the pipeline, I feel like that helps to bolster that mission and having that bucket that CPGs can pull from.
I would like to add something as well. So
Go ahead,
we
Mom.
get asked that question as well about why our vodka, like we can't bring the price down, especially when we're trying to distribute to restaurants and retailers are looking for much cheaper wholesale prices. And we have a hard time meeting those lower prices because even though we get all the bakery goods for free, there is a lot of cost involved and labor involved in the production side of things in order for us to process these ingredients. It's very different when other distilleries work from with virgin grains or potatoes or ingredients. They, like that is already ready to go. They can just go ahead and use it. And it's so much easier for us. Like our biggest challenge actually has been to depackage all the baked goods because everything comes wrapped in plastic and paper, and like cupcakes have their little like wrappers, and it takes us hours and hours and hours just to unwrap all the bakery goods in order to distill them. So the labor costs go up. And a big milestone for Misadventure, for Lost and Found Distillery, this year that we're actually working towards powering is a new machine that we got because of a grant that we received from the California government that is called a turbo separator, that is going to allow us to separate 2 tons of bakery goods in a couple hours, where before we were only able to process about 1,000 pounds in 5 hours. So that's going to help us scale up our production, but that machine costs about $500,000. So there is a lot of investment in processes and labor because we're not working with traditional ingredients and traditional processes.
That's great insight, Romy. Thank you for that. Okay, so we're nearing time. Can we go to the next slide, please? All right, I want to thank you all for joining me today and learning a little bit about some of our amazing companies that have gone through the certification process. Coming to join me today to learn about where food comes from and some of the processes that UFA is involved in certification. And if you still have questions, just email me. Email me at certification@upcycledfood.org and let's chat. I thank you all. Have a great day and have a great weekend.
Thanks for having us.